Andrew's become a crazy dog guy, which I'm not sure if that's as bad as being a crazy cat lady, but we'll dive right into that here in a minute. Thanks for listening to I'm Not Wrong with Jeff and Andrew. I'm Jeff. That's Andrew. Let's get into it. So, we're both unemployed. That's been established a number of times. Uh, you know, maybe that will stay that way. Maybe it won't. We'll see where time takes us in the next several months. But for now, we're both using our unemployment to establish this podcast and do a variety of other things. Andrew's main thing is apparently taking dog swimming lessons. So I'd like to really get into why dogs need swimming lessons.
Yeah, so that was more just good phrasing than actual representation of what Debbie and I got into. But no, we got to build up there. We got a couple of things to address here because you say crazy dog guy. Like I didn't spend 400 some hours at the Tampa Humane Society in 2025.
See, that to me isn't crazy dog guy. That's like animal. That's animal supporter. I'm not going to go so far as to say animal activist because I don't think you're an animal activist. I really hope you don't become one, like one of those PETA nut jobs who's out there like freeing dogs from people's yards and stuff because being a pet is abusive. If you get that far, then we'll have some discussions. But I don't think walking dogs at the Humane Society is crazy dog guy. I think having dog swimming lessons might be crossing the threshold into crazy dog guy.
Okay, so on the dog swimming lesson.
To be
So
fair, this is how you phrased it to me. I want to establish that for all our
1000%.
listeners.
1000%. And it was partially to verify that, see, you think all dogs can swim, right? That is false.
Okay.
Like, you remember my bulldog, Lola?
Yes, I have heard that a lot of bulldogs and pugs can't swim. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that.
She couldn't. She would submarine because she was all chest and like big chest, little skinny rear legs, and there was like an imbalanced distribution, and she would submarine, and then with like her flat face and other breathing issues, like yeah, very problematic. So,
So,
dogs can
but do
drown.
dogs need to know how to swim? I guess that's the other question. Is like, is that a necessary skill?
Well,
Just
up
keep them out of the
until
pool.
well, we bulldogs admittedly fall in that man has meddled where they shouldn't have meddled domain. Love them dearly. Never own another, ethically. Um, but yes, dogs should be able to swim, and my dog likes to swim, or so. I mean, she's a black lab. It's what they do. So I'm bored.
Opposed to dogs swimming if they know how to swim. I just think it's weird to teach a dog that can't swim to swim.
Well,
Just don't make it swim.
it was more verification that she could swim because the idea here is that ultimately I'm going to start taking her for some dog socialization, which is the thing.
I'm
Maybe
aware that is a thing, and I am aware of the downsides if you don't do it. Because
exactly.
I had dogs growing up. My parents have had a number of dogs since I've left the house, and my dog growing up, super smart dog, probably the smartest dog I ever had. They said he was a lab mix. He was definitely not. He was a pit mix. I've had mutts my whole life. I have never bought purebred dogs. Pretty much, it's always been mutts from the ASPCA. But he was a pit mix and Australian Shepherd, and you could tell he had Australian Shepherd in him. But so he was super smart, but he was super territorial, and he didn't get socialized, and you could tell. Versus my parents' dogs who now go to doggy daycare and stuff like that. So I'm aware dog socialization is a thing, and I'm aware that it's actually necessary.
Yeah,
Makes sense. They're pack animals. I can get that.
exactly. So, playing up to that pack animal thing and Labradors like water,
Yes.
looking for something to do. I found that, which might be an idea I try and bite and turn into my business model. Like maybe that's what I do with myself is I run a dog pool because it was the cutest thing ever, Jeff. Admittedly, 1000% crazy dog guy territory, no question. Um, but it was myself and the homie Nick, who was like the quasi lifeguard. It was only a 4 foot deep pool, but he was still there to make sure, she didn't drown or anything. And yeah, so it's just like a 4 foot deep pool. There's a little lip on it, which I didn't quite understand. I was like, it should be a nice gradient in. It was very clearly repurposed from something else, but at one end there was a ramp.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so after some training and a bit of coaxing, we got her going in and out on the ramp. She's swimming in the pool. We're playing fetch, and she just like gooned for 30 minutes. It was incredible. I got videos. I'm assuming it's what parents feel like when their kids do things. I don't know. Crazy dog guy. But
That's where you cross into crazy dog guy territory as well. People who compare their animals to children.
I, I got higher stakes because if your kid bites somebody, it's kind of whatever. My dog bites somebody, it gets put down. I can't afford to be wrong. You can't. It's harder with dogs.
Yeah, if you decide you don't want your dog, you can give it away. I cannot do that to a child.
Sure, you can.
Not really.
There's an episode of South Park that would beg to differ, but we will not consult the historic text at the moment. Oh, the other thing that was funny that happened
South Park is
is
not exactly the greatest legal mind in the history of the world on things that are real,
I did. I
but
said we wouldn't consult the historics. Anywho, though, leading up to it though, like that was my big highlight for the day, right? Because I'm unemployed, just kind of chilling. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go take my dog to the swimming pool. She's gonna swim. It's gonna be adorable. It's gonna be really cute. It's gonna be so much fun. To do that, I needed a car. I turned in my lease in
I
February.
forgot you don't have a car.
I do not have a car. So yes, I turned in my lease vehicle. So it really adds another layer to unemployed guy, unemployed and no vehicle. Oof.
You're really checking off those boxes
I
for the
really
ladies too.
am. Like short of a drinking problem and the fact that I actually have the savings to finance this, like yeah, I'm
Yeah, I mean,
really
you don't live with your parents yet, which is good. Like,
Mhm.
if you were living with your parents, you'd be right up there, and then you'd
I
be
mean,
a
at this point,
catch.
I'm like,
Unemployed, no car, live with mom and dad. You'd be a catch.
so I rolled with my brother to work because he's working now, and coming back, I was like, oh, hey, traffic. I got some time to kill. There's something called the Cherry Creek Doles, the dog off leash area. Very fun. I remembered it. I'm like, cool. I'll let her go run around. Cherry Creek is, as one would expect by the name, a body of water. There was access to the body of water that I wasn't really prepared for at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. As my dog is running around, and I watch her go barreling down these steps out of sight. I'm like, huh, wonder where she's going. And then I hear a splash, and I'm like, all right, awesome. Well, for two reasons. One, I had no towels or anything. Two, completely unprepared for it. And actually, three,
Three, not your car.
bingo. That was the big one. And I have like, the seat cover. So I'm covering the rear seat. My brother's cool about it. But I'm like, not awesome. And then I go look. I'm like, well, maybe she's not in the water. I go look, and no, she's just swimming back and forth in the river. I'm like, oh, well, we answered the first mystery of the day. Yes, she can swim. So we didn't actually need, swim school. She just got to play in the pool for 30 minutes, which was dope. But no, I had another great, like, hey, use your brain moment. And that was leaving after she has frolicked in this river water a whole bunch and then ran around a dusty field that was at one point in the not so distant future used for like cow pasture because I think I saw some like patties. Um, I'm walking back to my brother's car and I look and I see this big green hose coiled up on this arm. I'm like, why do they have a big hose? There's a creek. Like, if the dog's wet, it's wet. Why would you intentionally get your dog wet? It doesn't make sense to me. Once your dog's wet, like, you've lost the battle. It's over. Oh no. Oh no. I get her in the car, situated, enclosed area. I'm like, river stink. And I look back at my soaked baby girl in the back, just all excited and proud of herself. And then I like look a little closer, and I can just see all like the brown flecks of Lord knows what decomposed leaves. I'm like, awesome. So
So, are
yeah,
you getting your brother's car detailed? That's the other question here. Because
so
again, wet dog, not a great smell. Wet river stink dog, really not good.
so we did take appropriate measures. Obviously windows were open. We were ventilating. We're ventilating on the ride home. She's on the seat cover. I get that out of the car immediately, and then I get her like wipe her down. I got like all sorts of dog fur products. So we get her clean, and then I go back out and like yeah, I just Febreze the shit out of the car, and we're good, we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was basically my day, and yes, my dog does occupy most of my time because when she wasn't so between going to the Cherry Creek dog area and she ran in the creek, got all stinky, and going to swim class, I did go to the local shelter and walk some velvet pit bulls while she was sleeping. And I am very seriously considering working with animals and going back to school. So maybe there's something to Crazy Dog Guy. They're,
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I guess you can turn your passion into a career. That's a thing to do.
but,
So
but,
if
but,
you
but,
go
but,
back
but
to school, are you going to become a vet?
I don't know. There's
'Cause
layers
that's a
to
lot of
this.
schooling, even
There's
based on where you started.
there's layers to this. So we're lightly investigating, but it brings up a bigger question. I don't know if it's just me being jaded, so I'm going to run it by you. People say, you do what you love, you'll never work a day with your life. I say you do what you love, eventually you're going to start to hate it.
I
That's
think
my
it.
concern. That is my one concern about working
I think
with.
it's very. I think that's very case by case. So I'll use this as an example, right? I've told you before, like there are a few things that were kind of on my dream job list that for one reason or another have gone away. I still think practicing law would be the thing I would really enjoy, but there's a lot of reasons that from a family perspective, it's not the right thing for me to do. So I walked away from it. The other thing that I would love to do is I would love to be a radio show host, or in modern era, podcasts are far more popular than radio shows. So do this. I think if this became big, right, and we're doing this, we're Joe Rogan level. We'll never be Joe Rogan level, but even if we're like close, where this is a job, I do think that could be okay where it's not like working, but that's because I'd be my own boss essentially, right? Like when we want to make content, we make content. When we want to talk about something, we talk about something. I do what I want to do. I talk about what I want to talk about.
Mm,
But let me finish.
okay.
But getting the fact that it now becomes a requirement, I do think that obviously makes it go from like a fun hobby you're spending time on to now I got to get up, I got to do some show prep, I got to do this because like it's got a requirement. So that's definitely a thing. And I think especially when, again, I think that can be true of some things like I also would like to run a nerd store. Like, and I say nerd store, not comic book store, because I want to do more than comic books. We've talked about this, like trading cards, things like that. Um, that would be fun. But again, you do have the stress of like, oh, if my business fails, etc. So I think that is true only in this circumstance when you do not need the money associated. When you have the ability to at any point in time walk away from it, which being a vet or any of those things, like if that's what you decide to go do, would you hate it? I don't know if you hate it. You would hate it the same way you hated being in tech sales, or that like either of us hates corporate America. But I think there is a difference between like doing what you want and being able to walk away at any time, and like you still have to do it. I don't. I agree with you. It still becomes work. If you need it to survive, it still becomes work. It's never going to be as fun as it was before that. I think it will be more fun than an office job, though.
But even in the hypothetical of, like, let's say podcasting takes off. I mean, you were talking about some stratospheric levels of fame. Dial it back five, six, seven
Like I
notches.
said, I don't need. I would be fine just to be enough that I don't have to go get a job.
No,
I don't need to be
100%.
famous.
But even then, I think, we're the whole idea that, record when we want, like, oh, no, 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 no. I feel like there would be schedules, deadlines, release dates,
There definitely would
clients.
be because
So
then you got people who are expecting it.
bingo. So that's kind of my thing. And I always felt like, I could never tell if I was just being jaded or if, really the nature of the
No, I think
requirement
you're
of
right. Like I said,
I
but I do think there's levels to it because I don't think it'll ever be like, oh, it's just like doing my hobby all the time. The only way that's possible is if you are genuinely independently wealthy and at any point it's not fun, you just stop. Because then it's not a job. It's then you're doing something and generating income. And when you don't want to, you stop doing it. That can be fun because you just do it as long as it's fun. And then when it's not fun, you stop.
Mhm.
For anything that's a job, I do think there are levels because I definitely think this as a job, even if it has hard and fast schedules, we have deadlines, we have sponsors we're having to talk to and things like that, it still would be far more fun to me and far more freeing than I have to go to manufacturing plants or I have to work in an office, etc. That's so there's levels to it. I think it can be better than other jobs, but it's still going to be a job.
You know, that might be one of the more insightful things you've said in terms of things that might actually have an impact on how I view the world. Hmm.
I look at it as like relative happiness.
Yeah,
And I think the relative happiness of doing this, or in your case, maybe being a vet, or doing something like me running a nerd store, the relative happiness of like, okay, I have to get up, I have to go open my store, or I have to go, I have to go and see a bunch of patients, in this case being animals. Like the relative happiness of that versus I have to get on a conference call to sell this server is different. You're still going to have the, "Oh, I don't want to do this today. I really just want to lay in bed and just watch TV." And that's not going to go away, I don't think, but you're going to hate it a little bit less. That's my guess. So the question is, if you went down that path, what are you doing? Are you looking at vet? Are you going to be like an animal, like activist person, or are you going to go like work at an ASPCA and like help with administration? What are you talking about?
Uh, Is of right now, pipe dream only, no thought or research put into it. Vet is a lot of schooling, which I don't think I'd really want to do.
Yeah, and
I'm
I assume you'd have to go back to undergrad even, because I don't know if your undergrad translates well to get you into vet school. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I have no idea.
yeah,
I've
no,
also done no research.
yeah, also, been 15 years since I've been in college, at
Yeah,
least.
it doesn't
20.
that doesn't matter. The big requirement is like how they get. I assume vets have some similar thing. Like med school requires the MCAT. Vets probably have some test that maybe if you have a bachelor's and you can do well on that test, you could avoid getting it. I have no idea, but it's
Maybe.
maybe possible.
Well, and I had no problem, racking up a whole bunch of student loan debt. Did it once, got out. I can do it again. Um, but no, my thought was that seems much tougher and with my mental makeup, the idea of like putting a dog down. Ooh, that would probably shatter me a bit. So I'm,
Yeah, I don't think you have the emotional.
Mm-mm.
No offense, I don't think you have the emotional capability to
I
handle
don't,
that job. I could probably do that
I don't,
because I can disassociate pretty well and just be like, "This is what I got to do." I don't think you could.
not a chance. So I'm thinking like physical therapy, something, work with getting them back and happy and like seeing the progression and something that can,
That could the other thing you could do is like genuinely you said it almost jokingly, but it's not a bad idea. Is you could take some money, a small business loan, whatnot, or even some of your retirement savings, whatever you wanted to do, and you could open up like a doggy daycare or something like that and run that. The only problem with that is, and this is my person, you may not mind this. To me, I would hate that. And the reason being, now you are dealing with other people's pets, and people's pets, much like people's children, have very different behavioral levels. Like some people are very good dog owners, some people are very bad dog owners, and now you're dealing with that whole mix. And that's the clientele you have, and you can't really pick it because you're getting what you're getting. I wouldn't like that. You might not mind it.
and that honestly is the biggest single concern I have, and I'm still trying to work out, is, opening a business. I don't think I want to deal with people. I think the allure, at least in my mind right now, of like a dog adjacent job is I wouldn't have to deal with people as much because my whole job was, selling and talking on team stuff, and now I just feel so averse to it. Like when I saw the reminder pop up, like I had a brief flashback, like PTSD. It's like, oh my God, do I have to go get a collared shirt quick for this meeting? Like, oh how's my cheek line? I got to be on camera, and I'm like, wait a minute, different. Pause, stop. So yeah, we're still working through things.
You want me to talk you into it or talk you out of it in one sentence? Because I could do either one right now.
See, no, I'm pretty set on it at this point that we're just going to work through progressive. I don't think you're going to shift me either way, but you can try.
Well, talk you out of it would be you're still going to deal with people because you're going to deal with the owners. In any role, you're going to deal with the owners, and that's your primary customer is actually the dog owner, which
If I'm a
you're going to
business
have to you're going to have to
owner,
be personable.
if I'm a business owner, more personable. If I'm just the smart guy, I'm kind of maybe naively envisioning it like when I was in IT sales, yes, I had to, be the friendly guy who could, sell you things, explain things, know lots of things about things. When I was the IT administrator, I worked in like secluded little areas with specific people on things most others didn't understand, and other people, aka management, had to deal with the
I get that,
people.
but if you're doing dog physical therapy, you're pretty much going to have to be instructing the humans on what they need to do at home with their dogs because they're the ones who are going to be responsible for making sure the dogs actually
Oh,
perform
I'm
the
not, and I'm
task.
not saying it's devoid. I'm just saying it's lesser degrees. Like the idea of
Fair.
ownership is like a level of interaction with human beings I am not willing to
Oh,
do.
business ownership for sure it's going to be because then you've got to also the thing about business ownership that would suck to me unless it's something again like I'd like to own a nerd store. You don't have to do as much of this as say the business you're talking about. Like the thing about business ownership that sucks is you got to do the job and you got to go find more customers.
Bingo.
A storefront, you don't have to do as much of that. You still have to do some, but you can do more traditional like non face-to-face marketing. Um, but either way, it's an interesting task. My unemployment is taking a much more traditional route. I'm interviewing for jobs and things like that, but not really out of necessarily
Boring.
a strong desire to get into it. More out of the fact that I have a wife and kids, and until this takes off, I have to have some kind of backup plan.
Yeah, but you
But
have to have something more exciting to bring to the table than, oh, I've been doing boring crap. Like, I just regaled you with my slow descent away from society into, like, forming a wolf pack.
I don't have
What are
see.
you doing?
So I don't have a ton to bring to the table on what I've done with my
Oh,
unemployment because unlike you, I don't
I'm
have.
raising children.
I'm not a bachelor
I'm being
who
a good
has a
husband. Ooh, look at me. I'm
I
such a
have
good...
a 7 month old baby that I watch all day, and I have two other children. Have been spending time working on this. I have spent some time trying to get into teaching, ironically enough, which is funny because I personally find teaching to be one of the lowest pursuits.
But you
Those
like
who
talking,
can
it
do
works.
what?
You got the gift of gab. It works.
Well, and that's the thing is like, and being an adjunct professor is super easy. And if I can be an adjunct professor for like an online school where you're doing like operations or operational excellence classes, which is what I've spent my whole career doing, I have more experience than most of the people teaching those things. And I can just assign some stuff, tell you to post some things on a discussion board, collect my check, give you your A, be on your way.
Just do like that's just LinkedIn. You could just say you're a consultant, whatever, or a coach. Just throw coach on your
I thought
LinkedIn
about starting
title.
my own consulting firm because the funniest thing about consulting is you can't get hired by big consulting firms if you don't have consulting experience. But if I just say I'm a consultant and get some fake customer and then say I signed NDAs so I can't talk about my customers directly and then just give fake accomplishments, I could easily put that on my resume and then get an interview at a consulting firm.
Okay, but now what we're talking about is like fraud and or
Not
greed.
necessarily because I could consult you. They don't need to know the details about what I consulted you about.
I mean, okay, now it kind of feels like we're going and saying that we were executives at companies that no longer
I'm
exist.
just saying, George Costanza, Vandalay Industries, whole thing. There are two big things I've always thought were stupid in the workforce. One is
Only two?
consulting. What? Well,
Only
there are
two?
many. There are many, but there are two I'm going to highlight right now. One is consultants that have no practical experience that came directly out of college and became consultants, so they can tell people who have 40 years industry experience how to do their job. I've always thought that was idiotic and insane, especially because the people who they're talking to have no respect for them. And you've seen it, I've seen it, everybody who's ever had a real job has
You
seen it.
just described why I did not work as a technical consultant at Hewlett Packard because they could smell the green on me. It's why I went into IT administration. I was way too raw and everybody knew it. So funny you called that. Well played. I agree.
So,
100%.
okay. So the second one is references for jobs. Always thought that was stupid because who in their right mind is going to give you, because you give them the people to call for references.
Mhm.
I tell them who to call. So I know which bosses liked me. I know which bosses didn't like me. I'm going to tell you to call the bosses that liked me. The people that I know are going to talk me up, whether what they say is valid or not. It's insane, it's moronic, and it has no validity whatsoever in the hiring process. I've always thought it was dumb. I have never in my life, when I've been a hiring manager, called for a reference check because the other thing about it that's dumb is first of all, again, they're giving you the people they want you to talk to. Second of all, I'm taking the opinion of someone I've never met on someone else and saying, do you think they're good? If I don't know you, why does your opinion carry weight with me? Now, if I personally know somebody that you worked with, that's different. I'll call that person and say like, hey, Andrew, you worked with such and such. What did you think of them? Because I know how much I value your opinion or don't. But if it's a random person whose phone number I am just given and I call them, I don't know anything about them. I don't know if their opinion carries any weight. So why do I care what they think about this person? It's basically outsourcing your ability to make decisions, and I've never understood it. I've always thought it was dumb.
Oh, see, and after working for a manager who held the same belief and hired a guy who didn't have any references and said he wouldn't provide them, I quickly figured out why. He was an asshole. I think it's partly can you provide 3 to 5 people you worked professionally that can stand you? I think that's what it's really asking versus how is your like performance and ability and whatnot. I mean, legally, it's what you can say how long they worked
Legally,
there,
all they
whether or
can
not
say
they're
is that they
eligible for
worked with you.
rehire.
Legally, they can't even say if they'd rehire you legally.
Oh, because that would
Legally, all they can say is, yes, this person worked here.
exactly. So to me, I always thought it was more like, do you have 3 to 5 people who would professionally vouch for you?
That I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I just
Oh,
think
I'm
they're
not.
I
I'm
think
not
the
wrong. Boom.
but I think that you are also like people place way too much value on it because okay, yeah, the one example you gave, that's true. But again, he could have given you 3 to 5 random phone numbers and pulled a George Costanza and had you call his friends. Now, apparently the guy was an idiot and didn't do that. But like, how do you validate who these people are? You can't. You can go on LinkedIn. And some people don't even have a LinkedIn profile. That's it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but I definitely think that there is a bit of validity to it. And, LinkedIn is unfortunately, ugh, gross. Part of it, but for people that care.
I,
But
I personally don't think it's valuable. I think that you should do more. If you have those questions, you should be a lot more intrusive in your process of interviewing the person and like do better job of interviewing people for culture fit. Because the other thing I think is not necessary is a lot of interviews focus really heavily on technical skills and they don't focus on soft skills. Technical skills are very rarely the problem in hiring. Focus on the soft skills. Is this person going to be a dickhead that you don't want to work with on your team? That's what you should be weeding out. Because that's typically when I do interview people, that's more of what I'm looking for is like, do I want this? Do I want to have to deal with this person every day? Similar to how we used to be when we recruited for a fraternity. Like, do I want to have to live with this guy? Because if the answer to that is no, I don't want him joining the fraternity. That's really all you should be doing in an interview is, if I have to work with him, if I have to go on a business trip with him, am I going to want to blow my brains out? If the answer is yes, don't give him a job.
when not taken to extremes by and large, sure, because everybody's worked with like the friendly idiot who made you a lot of work. Like I had a guy like that in my IT job, and delightful guy, big family, active in the community, wonderful human being, terrible IT professional.
There's
And
always going to be some of those, and yeah, there's some level of technical, but how much do you go? Like, if you can figure out pretty quickly if somebody can do the job or not, in my opinion.
fair. And I will say the working at a variety of clients and seeing how their internal IT things have worked, you definitely need a blend. But me personally, I think this just might be more reflection of me. Give me the group of 6 technical, grizzled assholes, and we will move mountains and leave it 5. Give me the people with the soft skills and less technical ability. We're there till 6:30 because we're a family. Mm-mm. I'm
See,
in the former.
you know full well that I'm not a I do not believe at all that we're a family at work. And when I say soft skills, I more mean like, can you integrate? And it depends also on what industry you're in. What I do is very different than what you do.
Fair.
And so I'm looking for like, can you engage with people at a manufacturing plant and not make the operators on the shop floor want to throw a brick at your face? Because if you can't do that, then you can't have the job, right?
So
I can teach you how to do certain.
hypothetical. This is getting way too work serious, and I don't care.
It is. This
So
was not the plan, so we're going to
one,
change gears in a minute.
you are back in your fancy role. We're taking it to the extremes. Are you gonna hire? Why am I blanking on the other guy's name? Are you gonna hire Ben Wyatt, or are you gonna hire Rob Lowe's character from Parks and Rec? You can only have one. You can either have super soft skill, Rob Lowe, everybody loves him, ineffective, or you can have the nerdy technical guy who like goes in and butchers him and gets death threats.
I'm going to give you two answers because I think it depends on the job. If I need a guy who's just going to be if I need
No,
a
you can
guy
have
who's
one.
going to be out there
One
selling the
answer. No, no,
strategy, I
no,
want
no,
Ben
no, no.
Lowe.
You only get one answer
Then I
for.
pick Ben Wyatt because he's going to get the job done, but he had enough soft skill to talk to people, but he gets the job done.
But he also got death threats. So is that a good reflection on his soft skill?
That was more a reflection on in that specific job. He's the guy going and cutting people's jobs, so and he was good at it.
That could be a good job for
But
you,
we talked way
actually.
more about work than we intended, so I want to talk about something far more interesting, and that is the One Piece. So not only has One Piece now broken the 600 million copies in circulation mark, which makes it the single best-selling comic book of all time, topping Superman, which has been around for 90 years. almost about what is it, 88 years now. And One Piece has been around for 27, 28 years. So it's now the single greatest selling comic of all time. It's working its way on being the greatest selling fictional work of all time. But also, on that same day, Ichiro Oda, the author of One Piece, wrote down the secret of One Piece, tore half of it in half, and half of it's being published. It's the half I'm assuming that's already known, getting published in a Japanese newspaper. Another half was given to some crew of the Japanese Marine Research Group and was taken under the sea and hidden to be revealed after this the series ends. But it's already launched. iShowSpeed has already said he's going to go try and find the One Piece. You and I are unemployed and have nothing better to do than try and go find the One Piece. I think Ichiro Oda may have just pulled a Goldie Roger and started his own great pirate era.
Could it possibly live up to your expectations? Because I think the One Piece is a MacGuffin. It's the friends who made along the way. It's the adventures they had.
First of all, I don't think that for two reasons. One, I think I know more of the story than you do. You are very far behind on the story.
Clear.
So for one, I don't think story-wise it is. I think it's a very real thing in the story. And for another, Ichiro Oda has said directly that he hates stories that go that way, and he will not do that to the fans. It is a thing, and I believe him at his word at this. So, will it live up to the hype? I honestly don't know, because there are so many theories about what it could be that it's really hard to figure out. Like, it could be something really, really dumb, or it could be something monumentally cool, and it's really hard to say because, frankly, I think a lot of people hated the Gear 5 reveal when it came out because it's literally like Looney Tunes. And for me, I think that's one of the best things One Piece has done because it's very true to what One Piece has always been, which is One Piece is not a typical battle manga like Dragon Ball. It has that, but Ichiro Oda said a number of times, like, that's not the story he wants to tell. It's an adventure story that gets wacky and does things. I mean, like, Luffy was blowing his fist up like a giant balloon years ago. So the fact that now he's basically a living cartoon character that can make things out of the air and do whatever he wants, I think that fits with One Piece. But I think a lot of people were like let down because they wanted it to be something super dark and edgy and like very edgelord, and there were people disappointed. So some people are going to be disappointed by the One Piece no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for. I'm fully expecting a Christmas story. Be sure to drink your Ovaltine type.
I think
it would be so good if he pulled.
I think it's a weapon that blows up the red line.
A 30-year troll job, 40-year troll. Like it's something completely inconsequential, like the One Piece is a cod piece, or it was like Goldie Roger's laundry. It was completely inconsequential stuff because he ultimately just wanted to like overthrow the government, anarchy forever. It was a lie. Who knows? It's like that's what it is. It's just a lie.
Well, your cynicism aside, I think the One Piece is a weapon that destroys the red line. I think it will create the all blue and destroy the red line. It'll allow Fishman Island to come up to the surface. It'll solve all the little dreams that have been set throughout the series will come to fruition. And it fits with Luffy being the warrior of liberation as well. So that's what I think it actually is. I won't go deep into my theories because you wanted to talk One Piece, but now you're crapping on it as if this isn't a nerd show.
Just saying that I think ultimately it's going to be like anything else. Like when Star Wars came back, nerds were never happy ever.
I said there will be people who are unhappy, but I don't think it's a MacGuffin. I don't think it's just some like random like cod piece. I think it's a serious thing for the story. Whether people will like where that story ends is a very different conversation, but I think it's an actual meaningful thing to the story.
It makes you wonder, like, is there... It seems like almost within every fandom, especially once it gets to a certain size, it almost hits like critical mass and explodes and eats itself. Like, in relation to the story, and admittedly, I never watched Game of Thrones, because I'm a bit of a contrarian, I guess. So
I didn't watch it until right before the final season came out, and then I binged it and like got up to I watched the final season. I finished season 7 like an hour before season 8 premiered, and as soon as I finished the last season, because I watched it live, like as it came out, I was like, man, I wasted a bunch of time binging this show to watch the end of a series that was really cool at the beginning and crap at the end.
ultimately my question, and there's no way of knowing, but is it really crap, or do we just have, or do, like, after every good episode, every good season, every good level in a game, chapter, book, whatever it may be, our expectations raise slightly. Then when we get to the end, it's almost like no matter what, people almost seem to get like spiteful about it almost. Like short of what Breaking Bad, like what things that were like massively popular ended in a way that didn't have most people angry. Like Sopranos pissed off everybody, which, not watching the show, the idea that,
I've never seen The Sopranos.
yeah, but I know how it ends, and
I do too. I mean,
the idea
I know
that
what you mean.
the
That's a
idea that
show
a
that I
mob
should
boss
watch,
just
but I've
gets,
never seen.
but the idea that a mob boss just gets like randomly taken out by a random act of violence living that mob life, like, yeah, he'd already outlived his odds 30,000 times. It completely makes sense. Some random dude would just blow his brains out. So
Yeah, I
that
don't
makes
know why
sense.
there was so
But
much complaint about that either. I agree with you. Again, never saw the show. I don't understand them. But so like I will say objectively, your theory holds water for sure. But in the case of Game of Thrones, you are wrong. It is objectively crap. Because the reason the Game of Thrones ending was bad was not because the expectations were super high and it disappointed. That's true. But it was because suddenly they had all these plot lines that they just left hanging. And the showrunners were supposed to do a Star Wars
no,
movie.
you're gonna check that.
And so they like HBO told them like take as much time and make as many episodes as you need to finish the season. They're like, no, we'll do it in like 6 episodes. We don't care. And they rushed through a story. They were just like threw it together, and you could tell that there were a lot of things like they just left a lot of things that unexplained or explained them really quickly with no consequence.
Like, where did the
So it,
Starbucks cup come from? Where's the Westeros branch of Starbucks, and what was in it?
it had to be a pumpkin spice latte,
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
but
Um,
But yeah, it was because you're right though, because there are other things like Sons of Anarchy is a show I did watch. I loved it. I've seen it numerous times actually. Sons of Anarchy ending sort of falls flat, and the question is, did it fall flat because the show fell off, which is my contention, or did it fall flat because the expectations got so high? But I think that one fell off. The Americans, I think the expectations got too high. Um, so I mean, like I can name a bunch of shows. As we've discussed before, that is my preferred form of media that I consume is television series, like well written television series. There are some that I think the expectations got too high. I think The Americans is a good example of that. It was a great series. I don't think the ending's that bad in hindsight, but it got kind of trolled on the internet. And I think that's because people were expecting something that wasn't going to be, especially for a show that was trying to follow a historical timeline about the Cold War, and we all knew how the Cold War ended. So I don't know what people expected to happen.
it's just one of those things I think about, and I, especially for some of the longer running stories, like, is a premise, is a concept. It is a little wild to me because from the outside, not being that into One Piece, they're almost committing one of the sins of Superman in my mind, which is so many freaking powers and abilities that there's almost no real danger. Like, the way Gear 5 has been explained to me is like basically he can just shape reality by and large, in which case it, there were more stakes when he was a rubber man before he became like a quasi omnipotent god.
So
And
we can go deep down this rabbit hole if you want, or I
no,
can
but I
stop
don't.
it. But I will just give a short answer, which is there are actually a lot of stakes because that is and is not the correct explanation of Gear 5. There is a lot of other stuff that can basically like is more powerful still than Luffy.
No, admittedly, and now we're getting to like power scaling and other great parts of the nerd universe, but it always just like to an extent, the success of Superman has always perplexed me. I'm like, why? It's like a guy that's pretty much invincible to everything except a piece of the place which he used to live on, which is kind of weird in a sense. Um, has been around for that long. I was like, at least with like Batman, you shoot him like in the mouth, like he's dead. But and so it's just one of those
So
things
you know where I
where
fall. I'm not a Superman fan, and I will say Superman has always been to me ever since I was a kid. Superman is Cartman in the episode "Fun with Weapons." I am Bulldog. I have many powers. Like
Full circle. We've come back to the park.
That
That's the
that
balloon.
is Superman, and like and Luffy has a little bit of that, but the thing is, like, again, One Piece to me is less about that and less about the power scaling. It's more about like there's a very deep story there about the world overall, and I think that's what makes One Piece good. Is there's a very deep world building aspect in One Piece that if you don't read it, you don't realize or
Well,
watch it.
100%. And that's why I try and hold back on some of my more like blasphemous opinions because I hear little bits and pieces and make snap judgments. Like now that all of the people that I'm loosely familiar with are being tied to like these mega important historical figures and everybody's somebody important's kid, I'm like, that's lame. Can't people just have like unique bloodlines or somebody just comes out of nowhere and does some cool crap? Why does everybody got to be descended from somebody who's like quasi more important? That kind of it's almost like the Ray Skywalker like lineage thing. Like I've never put much stock into lineage, so whenever I hear it hyped up, I'm like, oh, lame.
Yeah, and One Piece does a little bit of that, but there's also quite a bit that's not. But I get where you're coming
But
from.
in a manga too, I mean, or manga or anything, Asian related, lineage plays in a bit more than my American butt cares about. So
That's
maybe
also
just
true.
accept that.
All right, so let's shift gears one more time, Andrew, before we wrap up for the night. We had two things we want to talk about. One is should I spend some of my unemployment money on Crimson Desert? Maybe we save that for later. Or we can talk about books and where they rank in terms of expense pound for pound, so to speak, in their content. Which you want to get into?
Probably books pound for pound because the topic was kind of started by my complaint, which I kind of want to
Mhm.
redact a bit.
Okay.
Of
So let me set it up for everyone first. What your complaint was?
Mhm.
Andrew texted me last night and said, "Are books too expensive for, or like, are they the most expensive form of media overall?" Again, I'm going to use pound for pound loosely as the term. Are video games actually the best bang for your buck item? I actually do think there's merit to that. I don't dislike books, but I do think there's merit to that. And I'll let you redact your statement in here in a second, but I'll just respond to your original statement. I think there's merit to that because books can be like $20 or $30 for a book. And just the amount of effort it takes to print a book is very, very low. So I don't understand why it has to cost me $30 to buy a book that is printed, that you put maybe $3 worth of materials into.
Well, let's not be basic here because it was like, well, why do video games cost so much? I download it digitally. It's not tangible. It should be free because there's no
Well,
resource.
no, but I mean, like, I think it takes more effort to create a video game than it does to create a book.
I've never written or created a video game, but I'm sure I could offend one group or the other with the following statement. So I'm gonna say, yeah, video games are harder. Just
I
be
mean, like,
a story writer.
writing a novel is hard, but writing a good video games have a story like a novel, but also have like all the other stuff.
Yeah. In
So, and
in
again, I'm not crapping on writing. I actually think writing is like one of my favorite hobbies. I actually like to write in my free time, and I do think writing is hard.
Mhm.
But I don't think cost wise it's as hard as making a video game with a team of 1,000 people.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. And you know what started it was so in my free time I was like, oh, I'll read. Am I going to read fun things to enrich me? No, I'm reading Warhammer. This is the Space Wolves Omnibus. It's the first three books in the series.
So first of all, you've mentioned that many times now, which
Yeah.
is funny, and that's fine. Second, can I pause you for 1 second? Because
Yeah.
I just want to. You said, "Are you going to read something to enrich yourself or something fun?" I just want to call this out. I think people who read nonfiction all the time have a defect. Like it, it's okay to like want to better yourself, like that's fine, but like fiction is probably one of the most fundamentally human things that exist. Storytelling is one of the most basic human art forms that has ever existed. It's existed in time immemorial. And the fact that people are like, no, I'd rather not read a story. I'd rather read this book on management and leadership change. Like, you need something better to do with your time. If that's what, in your free time, you want to work more, you need to reevaluate your priorities. Read a book,
1000%.
but a fictional book.
And if you're listening and you need a universe to fall into to distract you from your work life, just saying. But no, but why I brought this up is you would think, and there's a complete story in here. but I learned there's actually 6 books. This is just the first 3. So I need the next 3. Cannot find the next 3. Very frustrating.
That is surprising.
Yeah, apparently Games Workshop, Black Library, whatever, don't really like to reprint things. So luckily I did end up finding the next 3 books I needed for reasonably priced from a dude in the UK.
Okay.
So I'm
So
having
I
to
also the other thing I'll throw out there, and I know you prefer physical print books. I
I
get
do.
that. I also prefer physical media. I've talked about that at length in other things, and at some point that'll probably come up as a topic here. I get physical media, but when it's inaccessible, you can also check Kindle.
Yeah. And here's
At least then you can read it.
setting up next week or a follow-up show topic. Or maybe there's nothing here. I don't know. Why do we shame like screen time on phones and stuff, and then we elevate e-readers? Aren't both of them like irradiating our eyes and destroying us physically?
I don't think that's why people. We'll save that. I don't think that's why people have a
Definitely
problem with
part
screen
of it for a
time.
while, beyond like doom scrolling and stuff. I don't know, because I mean, even like if you're doom scrolling Reddit, you're still just reading. Granted, it's depressing crap, but you're
Yeah,
still reading.
let's save that because I think there's tough. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah. So you found your book.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
Found them, so I'm quasi retracting it or redacting it because it wasn't too expensive, and yeah, I'm still like the more I work through the rankings in my head, I realize I'm still rationally pissed off that video games now $70 a pop. So
I'm still mad about that too.
yeah, so I think I'm going to dock them a few in my media ranking, and I can reread this book, and I will at some point, I'm sure. So for $25, probably got. I'm not that fast a reader. Probably if I read it again, probably another what 20-ish hours to get through it. So yeah, I get 40 hours for 25. That's not bad.
25 bucks for 3 books. I don't think is bad. I guess so. It's an interesting kind of thing for me because I think again, like some books, you can go buy a book 7, 8 bucks. I don't think that's a bad price. The problem is like, especially brand new books when you're reading a current series that's coming out, which admittedly right now I am not. You're reading Warhammer. I'm reading Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan series, which I mean, those are old.
Yeah,
So I can find those all on paperback, just like you can find most of yours on paperback. Paperback's cheap. The problem is when you're reading like a current series that is coming out in print regular, like you're waiting for the next book, and they only release it in hardcover, and a hardcover book comes out at like 30 bucks. But they're gonna reprint that book in like 6 months in paperback for 7. But that's where I have a problem with it.
yeah, that would get me. That would get me too. But which which media form do you think has the most reusability in your ranking
Books, hands down, it's books.
versus video games? Like NCAA versus a book? What could you spend more
It,
time with?
I mean, I'm not a great example because I don't read a whole lot. Admittedly, I go in waves where I read a lot, but I also don't game that much anymore. But to me, I don't know. I mean, straight up, like be able to turn it on and get mindless on it is probably video games. That's fair. Like you can pour thousands of hours into a video game, but the thing. So I guess it's hard for me to answer because the thing that when I think about like reusability, like that I can get excited about is we talked about it. I think last show I'm probably going to reread The Lord of the Rings. I haven't read that series since I was in high school, since the movies were coming out. And I know the story, but the idea of like getting back into that world is far more exciting to me than going and firing up a video game I've played before. So I think it's like a game like NCAA or Space Marine where it's not super story driven. It's more like you're just playing a repetitive game loop. That has a lot of reusability because it's just you're doing something enjoyable and you just do it over and over. A game that's story driven is what I would compare to a book, and I would rather reread a book than replay a game in most cases.
Ooh, follow-up show topic. We talk about story-driven video games. How many story from a video game do you actually remember the plot of well? Like a Final Fantasy, uh, even this
We could definitely talk about that
day.
because there are a few that instantly come to mind that I can tell you every single story beat of the game.
Like there's a couple, but then there's also some where I've beaten him 3 to 4 times, and it's like, wait, what
Oh
happened?
yeah, there's definitely a few where I'm like, I don't really remember how that played.
It's like I've
But like, I'll tell you the one that comes to mind instantly that I know beat by beat is the original KOTOR.
I knew that was going to be your answer.
Like I love that game, and I'm sure you knew it because I talked about the game a lot. But it's one of my favorite games. I think the Darth Revan twist is one of the best executed twists in anything because when it plays out, you instantly are like, "How was I so stupid and didn't see it?"
Absolutely.
But it's so perfectly laid out that like nobody predicted it. But when you see it, it all clicks. I loved that game, and the story is good. Another game by the same group, BioWare, back when they were awesome, is Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Amn. I remember that story really well because that story is amazingly executed.
Thinking about it now, and maybe this is just me versus an actual problem with like video games, or maybe the way the story's delivered over time. I'm trying to think about like Final Fantasy VII. I've beaten that at least 3 times, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I can tell you the main overall points, but I don't remember a large parts of that
Yeah,
game.
I'm trying to think about like some of the towns that get visited, order of things that have happened, and I'm sure some of it is, just I haven't played the game in quite a while and I don't acknowledge the remakes. But the more I think about
The
it,
remakes changed the story too for no apparent reason.
yeah. But the more I think about it too, like I remember your brother was ripping on me because when GameStop was like, yeah, Halo 3 is our game of the year. I'm like, yeah, I don't remember Halo 3. There was a story there, I'm sure. Don't remember what it is. He was like, oh my God, that's blasphemy. I'm like, is it though? To
Yeah,
not
see,
remember a first-person shooter
see,
storyline?
and I don't know. I mean, like, I know he said that. I don't know if he was talking about the story aspect of the game because he was deep into the multiplayer on the game. He played the multiplayer a lot. I don't know if he thinks the story is that good because maybe he does. But I'm with you. Like, I could not tell you what the story of
Because there
Halo
was
3
at
is.
one
I
point, like,
remember the story of Halo 1 because when Halo 1 came out, it was still
oh,
like, it was a big deal. Like I got an Xbox because I played Halo at a friend's house, and I worked my butt off. Like it was over spring break weekend when I was in 8th grade or something. Me and my brother worked our butt off in the yard, so my dad would buy us an Xbox
now
and got Halo.
we our friend group coordinated Christmas so that half asked for Xbox and half asked for like the PS2, whichever.
Yeah, I think it was
I think
PS2.
it would have been two. Either way, so that we had ample coverage. Yeah, but again, like Halo 3 or Halo 4, one of them like there was a big plant involved at one point.
I don't know.
And Cortana has like AI brain rot, which holy crap, they
I
predict
remember
the
something about
future.
yeah, but I don't know the story of Halo at all. So I don't know if Hot Pocket's big thing was the story or if it's just like because he spent hundreds of hours playing the multiplayer online on that game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why he likes it so much.
Mm.
Maybe he loves the story and I didn't know that, but like I'm with you. I could not tell you what happens in Halo 3.
And I
He
what
fights the Covenant, I know that.
and they end up becoming friend, kind of.
Yeah, something I think yeah, because then you play as the Arbiter or something
Arbiter.
like that.
Who's quasi
I don't
disgraced,
remember.
but
Yeah,
quasi
I
not.
don't remember any of that game. And I
Yeah.
frankly don't care.
Well, and it's not even about caring. It's the fact that I invested so much time over the course of the years in these games that I played, and do you think you'll remember a bit more of them? Where I feel like I have better retention on movies, and maybe it has to do with like the pacing and the form and the fact that we're only dealing with like 1 to 3.5 hours. But if you ask me to like break down the Star Wars movies, the Lord of the Rings movies, like it's been a second, but okay, sit down, grab a chair, we'll be here for a couple of hours.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like I retain movies really, really well. Shows the same thing, and shows can be a long stretch. I mean, I can tell you pretty much beat by beat the
Ooh.
7 seasons of Sons of Anarchy.
Maybe the duration is the problem because I've always said TV shows I've never really gotten into because it loses my interest. I was like, wait, you're gonna be gone for how long? Ooh, yeah, stop caring. Sorry.
Yeah, so the duration may be your thing. For me, like I can remember like, but video games don't stick with me. You're right, and that's why like, and again, I'll go back to books because a really good book tends to stick with you. At least in my like, some of my favorite books I still remember very well. Now, do I remember them as vividly as I remember when like right after I read them? Not necessarily. It depends on the book, but pieces of a book will stick with you more. And I think again, I think it's because books have to be crafted in a way where the story has to be kind of gripping, where video games can cover a lot of that up by just being fun to play and the story doesn't grip you. A book, if it's not interesting, you just stop reading it.
Yeah. No, 100%. And Plus, there is just the activity of reading versus watching versus gaming in terms of, mental engagement. Whereas
Yeah, that's definitely
I
true.
think a lot of the games, specifically, at least in my case, when I was working, was played to like just get the brain to stop, to turn it off, to distract from reality. And so when you're like searching for that escapism, I think you're almost intentionally not paying attention. Whereas for me lately, like reading has been a much more engaged activity, something I consciously choose to because I want to. And because of that, probably storing it better.
Yeah, that's probably true. So I'll ask you one last question, Andrew, before we wrap. Is listening to a book reading a book? Or is it stolen book valor when someone tells you they read a book, but in reality they heard the book?
I don't know that I necessarily. I mean, it's all semantics. Like, listening is not reading, fundamentally. They are two
Mhm.
completely different aspects. So, in the same way, I wouldn't say I read an audiobook, I don't read a movie. You watch a movie, you listen to an audiobook, you read a physical book, would be kind of my take, I guess.
So I would agree with you. It's funny because that was a topic of debate within my brothers and I. Like one of my brothers listens to a lot of audiobooks and he will tell people he's read the books. And he's gotten called out a few times like, did you read the book or did you listen to the book? Because and his contention is it's the same because I still get the information, which in theory is correct, but here's where I would say where I think it's different because what you said is accurate. Like it's reading, it's watching, it's listening. But more than that, like listening, I listen to audiobooks too when I'm on long drives and stuff, and it is an entertaining thing to do because I don't like music as much. But I do not retain nearly the information from listening to a book that I do reading it because I can zone in and out while I'm listening to a book. Whereas with you reading it, like if you realize you didn't read, you go back and reread it.
I would say in this instance, the asshole is the person who asked for clarification because it's irrelevant. He's consumed the information and now we're talking semantics just to be a dick.
I that's fair.
That's the real answer
For
right
the
there.
record, I'm not the one who called him out, but
No, I know
I know
you're
you
not.
think I was, but for the record, I'm not. But I think, in slight defense of the person who did call him out, I think the point was more like you don't remember that much about it, so stop saying you read it. Because again, if you're listening to something while you're doing 10 other things, are you really Are you really listening to it?
But see, but now again, we're kind of blurring the lines a bit because it wasn't about, retention. It was about, well, did you physically, use your eyes to look at letters, to form words and process in your internal
That
brain?
was the question that was asked, but I think the deeper question was like you're trying to act like you're a subject matter expert on this fictional world when did you really read the book or are you talking out of your ass because we don't actually know if you know what you think you know.
See, now we're very nuanced and multi-layered here, and if we're projecting false airs of authority based on, stolen valor. Where do we go here? Like there's a lot to unpack, and we're about to be at an hour. So, Jeffrey, what do we
I
say?
guess we'll unpack it next time. Thanks for listening to I'm Not Wrong. Please come back soon and we will maybe get into stolen book valor and why it's a problem in
Mm-hmm.
America. Thanks.